How's it going today, folks? We are on our way to the field to combine corn. It is Sunday morning. It's just a little bit after 7 o'clock. I was able to get a little bit of an earlier start today. Being that I don't have to feed cows on Sunday morning, so I stopped into the local diner, had breakfast with a few of the guys, and now we are on our way to the field. The field that we have to combine in today, to finish up with this morning, that is, I've only got like 15 acres left there, and then we're going to move on to where I was chopping corn on one of the last days of chopping. I had left some corn there and moved to a field that we had preventative plant corn on, and that's where we had finished up. So I've got about 20 acres or so left of corn on that particular farm that we were chopping on, and then the field that we have to roll into first thing here this morning. That's a field that I started late yesterday afternoon, and there's like 10 or 15 acres left there. So we're going to get on it here and keep moving along. We got 85 acres in here to do. We should be rolling into this farm tomorrow. Alright, we are just rolling into the field now. This is a 40-acre field. This field here, we no-tilled corn into sod on, and it's running at about 220 bushel to the acre. It's doing pretty good, so I'm going to get pulled off into the field, fuel up the combine, and start in combining corn. Alright, we've got fuel going in here. How about we check the oil? Check that. We're good. Make sure we ain't got any leaks. Looks like that fuel filter's leaking a little bit. Oh, that's because that's loose. Alright, so tighten that up. Looks like everything else is good. Alright, I've got the fuel going in. Engine oil level's good, but this hydraulic reservoir here seems to be a little low. We're going to pour a little bit of hydraulic oil into that, and then we'll get things started up and warming up here. And then we're going to be full of fuel here in a minute. And we'll be able to get started in here. Alright, so we had to improvise a little bit. I didn't have a funnel, so we had to cut a container here for a funnel. We'll pour that, put that there, and then we can start pouring in some oil. Hey, just a second, my headphones haven't picked up here yet. I'll call you right back. Alright, we've got oil in there. I just got to clean up the mess here and get this thing started up. I spilled a little bit of hydraulic oil. Pouring that in there, but we'll get that cleaned up and then get this thing started and warmed up. Okay, so we jumped out of the combine here for a second. This particular field that I'm in, I've only got about 7 acres left, 5, 6, 7 acres left here. This field is 40 acres, and it was the first field that we planted with the Schaefer Mohawk closing wheels. They're a spiked toothed closing wheel, and I bought a complete set of them to put on the planter, and we ended up no-tilling this field, and this was the first field that we no-tilled with those closing wheels. Now, I did a video on those closing wheels here back in the spring, and I wanted to be able to get a good look at the wheels while they were running along on the planter. And Andrew actually, this is the field that he planted here, and actually it's this part of the field where we're standing here. This is what he planted. Now there's like 60 some rows here or thereabouts. Now this was no-tilled into sod, and this is a Hubner 6124 variety. This is actually a silage corn, and it's running at about 200 bushels to the acre. And as you can see, we've got pretty good plant spacing in the row here. This was planted at population of 34,000. We've got a little bit of snow here still left, but we're going to get back to the combine here and get this field here finished up. And then the next field that we're going into, I planted right after this one, and that was no-tilled into sod as well. So the combine's been doing a pretty good job. We had a lot of work done to this combine here last winter, so it's got a lot of new parts in it, and it's doing a pretty good job. The fodder here is the corn residue is dried up pretty well, and if we were in the business of baling up this corn residue for bedding, this would be a good spot to start. The trash is pretty dry, and I think it would make a pretty good bale here. So, well, we better get after it. We better get this finished up and get moved on to the next field here. Alright, so we only have a couple of passes left here in this particular field, and I had mentioned earlier when I was outside the combine here a little bit ago that this is the part of the field that my 8-year-old son planted. I'll drop a card up above here going back to that video here this spring when Andrew planted this field, and I did a video on the Mohawk closing wheel. So like I said, I've got just a couple of passes left. This is a Hubner variety of seed corn. It's a Hubner 6124. This is actually a silage variety, and it's standing here pretty good still for being it's a dual purpose, if you will, but this is standing quite well still. And it's yielding just over 200 bushels to the acre, which is pretty good for no-till corn on marginal ground here. You can see a little bit of snow still on the ground there. It is still quite cold. That's not going to melt here for a while. But, like I said, we've got just a couple of passes left. And we're going to be pulling out of here and moving on to the next field. If I had an 8-row head, this would be the last pass of this field, but since we've got a 6-row, we're gonna have to make 2 passes. Well, this is the last pass in this field, and you know what? Sometimes that is just the way it works out. We've got 2 rows left, and then we're going to be done. Okay, we are done with this field. The landlord that owns this field ended up building a house way back in off the road, and they have a blacktop driveway that we access this field with, and I was really worried about it all year that we were going to be mudding up this driveway, and with the ground being partially froze and amount of corn fodder that's left and whatever, we haven't got even one little bit of a track at all on their blacktop driveway. We're just getting ready to exit the field here now, and there is a little bit of grass that we cross over to get onto this blacktop driveway, and we barely have so much as even a little bit of a tire track on there from the trucks. So we're gonna look out here pretty good as far as not messing up their driveway. Out of all the YouTube channels that there are out there today, we are probably the ones with the smallest grain buggy / grain cart. Now, we didn't get a grain cart to demo this year like so many of the other channels have gotten, and maybe the one and only thing that we have in common with the guys that did get grain buggies to demo this year is we do have a unpreferred grain cart. We've had this grain cart for 10 to 12 years now. It is a model 5000. And it holds 500 bushel. The combine that we have is a John Deere 9560 with mower, grain extensions on the grain bin, tank itself. Kind of see them right there. We have a tarp on as well. Our combine holds about roughly 240 bushel, and we can get 2 dumps on this grain buggy, 2 dumps off the combine, and then we're only putting about 20 ton or so on our straight truck. So this has been a pretty good grain buggy. I know I've gotten a couple of comments, and only a couple, I mean there was only 1 or 2, on why we have such a small grain buggy. And really, it serves its purpose for us. We probably we harvest just as much grain as anybody else does, maybe even more grain per row of what we have for a combine, and the size head that we're running on this combine. And you know, we handle quite a bit of grain, whether it be wheat or corn or what have you. But you know, we're running it on a 200 horsepower tractor, and you know, it does a good job for us. A grain buggy, you know, some guys don't even have a grain buggy. A grain buggy will almost double your efficiency as far as when it comes to harvesting grain. You can harvest just as much grain with one combine and a grain buggy as you can with two, just about anyways, as you can with two combines and no grain buggy. The amount of time sometimes that it takes you to travel back to the truck to dump onto the grain buggy, you can almost combine a bin's worth of grain in that amount of time. So with that being said, that's the story with our grain cart. It has served us well. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this video. We'll come back at you here tomorrow or the next day or later on in the week here. We're going to be a while shelling corn here. Remember, if you like these videos, you can remember to hit the thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks again for watching, folks.